Hey everyone, me Kevin here. The new text of the next stimulus bill is out. This is the text put together by the House of Representatives. In the last video in the series, we went through the stimulus check portion. In this portion, we're going to go through the child tax credit. I'm going to show you the actual law and kind of how they're thinking of implementing this in terms of you getting monthly versions of stimulus checks based on how many children you have. Let's get right into it. Right after I mention that if you want to get a totally free $250 and open an account to invest in cryptocurrencies, go to metkevin.com/BF. That stands for BlockFi, metkevin.com/BF, and you will get up to $250 for free depending on how much money you deposit into BlockFi. All right, folks, let's get into the content. So here we go. The child tax credit is on 475 or page 475 of this bill. This bill has not passed yet, but this is the current verbiage that we have, and we expect something substantially similar to this to pass, so we're going to go through it. So the way this works is this child tax credit begins after 2020. Why this is important is because if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I want this tax credit, should I wait to file my 2020 taxes? The answer is no, because this tax credit does not exist until 2021. And even though you're filing your 2020 tax return in 2021, you don't get a tax credit because this doesn't exist in 2020, at least this version of it. A smaller version of this does exist. Okay, so here's how this works. Basically, you are going to get a refundable tax credit for children. So the way this works is they're taking the current child tax credit that exists, which is $2,000 if you have two children, $1,000 per child. But anyway, what they're doing is they're taking the current credit of $1,000 here per child, and then they're going to increase that to a new amount. And we're looking at $3,000 for any child aged 6 to 17, and it will also include 17. And there's a section here indicating that right now you do not get the tax credit if you have a 17-year-old. That basically you would have to be under 17, but the rule is now changed to under 18, at least proposed by this bill. Then we have $3,600 going to any child between 0 and basically 5, not yet attained the age of 6. I don't know why they use bizarre verbiage like this, but that's why you see 18 over there, but it's really 17 and under. Okay, so how this is going to work is, depending on how many children you have, you are going to get a check for 1/12 of the amount you are owed. Now here they tell you if you're eligible for this tax credit based on your income. Basically, for every $1,000 that your income is over these threshold, the credit will go down by $50. And here is how the thresholds work. You can see these on screen here. These are actually the same thresholds, roughly the same thresholds that we have for the stimulus checks, except the stimulus checks have the hard cutoffs, whereas these do not. These have a cutoff of losing $50 per $1,000 you make more, which is the same cutoff as the very first stimulus check and the $600 check, but not the new $1,400 check. And if you want to know more about the $1,400 check, make sure to watch my video breaking down the version of this bill where we talk about this $1,400 stimulus checks. In the next video, I'll be talking about the unemployment section as well. So this will be a series. You can see the stimulus playlist for more of those videos. Now, here's how they're going to provide this money to you. They are going to provide you 1/12 of the annual advance amount per month. They're going to make monthly payments to you. Now, you're going to have an option. I'll show you the option in just a moment. But basically, here's just a quick example as to how this works. Let's say you have two children that are 10 years old, okay? We're going to do 2 times 3,000. That equals $6,000 that you're owed. But let's also say you have a toddler. You've got a 3-year-old, and so that's basically going to be a 1, not 3. So take that 3-year-old, even though they can feel like they're 3 humans. You're going to take 1 and multiply that by 3,600. There you go. And now we're going to add these two numbers together here. And so that would make you eligible for $9,600. And then all you need to do is take that amount and divide it by 12, and I'll show you how the government plans on giving this to you. So divided by 12, that gives you $800 per month. So $800 is the monthly amount you're expecting to get from this tax credit, which when you get this as a tax credit, it means you're not getting the previous child tax credit against your tax refund. So keep that in mind. Even though the amount is going up, you're losing a little bit potentially from your tax refund in the 2021 filing season when you go to file your 21 taxes. But you're not going to have to wait until April of 2022 to get this money, because the government, and this part is not in the bill, but the government is currently planning on starting to send these checks July 1st. If this bill passes. So that way, they're providing you 6 months of these monthly payments starting July 1st. So in this example, you'd get $800, then $800 in August, $800 in September, $800 October, November, December. Then when you file your taxes at the beginning of next year, you'd get the second half as part of your tax return. But in January, you'd be getting that $800 again. It would just kind of keep going on a monthly basis. Now, there is an expiration to this, and that expiration is still being debated in terms of how long are they going to keep this stimulus program going with the advancement of the child tax credit. But it's a pretty good tax credit. I mean, $800 a month if you got 3 children in this example, not bad. And so we're going to go through some of the legalese here. I want to just give you basically the bottom line of some of the things they say here. If your income goes up or down, the IRS or Treasury Department, they might either notice that or they might ask you to report that to them. So kind of like unemployment where you're reporting them or telling them what your income is like. And then they might adjust your monthly amount depending on, maybe you had a child. Okay, now it's time for you to get more monthly money. Maybe you had a child that turned 18 and now technically you're supposed to get less money. And I read through the legalese. I don't want to go through like reading all of this verbiage. But there is a section that says if you are overpaid, technically, you got to repay that when you file your taxes. So this is different from the stimulus checks, because in the stimulus checks, if you got overpaid, you keep it. But this, and there is a safe harbor, like it's a little complicated how they've got their rules set up. But basically, if you're getting overpaid, you probably are going to have to pay that back. And they're doing that to incentivize you to basically just keep them up to date. And the way they want to do this is kind of interesting. Quick note over here, and see here, take a look at this. The Secretary may adjust the amount of any monthly payment made after the date of such modification to take into account changes. Again, birth of child, they've even, and this is terrible, but they've even got death of child. But they do, in terms of death of child, they go by beginning of the calendar year, which does sort of imply in such a horrible scenario that payments might continue. But I don't even want to think about that. We're just going to keep going. Instead, we're going to go over here to Congress spelling online on-line, which is something that hasn't been done since the 90s, according to the Chicago Manual of Style and the Associated Press guides. But anyway, online information portal will be created. This is potentially one of the reasons they're not going to start sending out these funds until July 1, because they've got to set this portal up, and basically they're trying to buy themselves 3 months to do it, which, quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if they can't manage to get it done by then either, because they're freaking ridiculous. But anyway, in this portal, you're going to be eligible for selecting whether you want to receive the payments or not. You'll be able to provide relevant information for a modification in payments, again, like a birth of child or other factors. And at the end of, or at the beginning of every next year, so by January 31st of the next year, you would get a letter basically letting you know for tax filing purposes, this is how much we gave you, so that way you can reconcile that on your taxes. Obviously, they are provided the authority to adjust your payments, but they're also, hey, look at this. This is interesting. Such payments shall be made on the basis of the shortest interval which the Secretary deems administratively feasible. But that means if they can't figure out how to get this program running to where they're paying you a check every month, maybe they might go to every 2 months or every 3 months. They're kind of just creating this as an option here. Because here, if the Secretary determines that it is not administratively feasible to make monthly payments, then you should go with whatever shortest alternative there is. So what I'm trying to say with this is, even though right now we're expecting monthly payments, let's see if that actually starts rolling. Who knows? Maybe they start sending out like, here's your half-year payment or your every quarter payment, which would just be stupid. Like, just get it out every month. I can't imagine it's so terribly difficult. And they are the government after all. They have a money printer. Figure it out. So anyway, application of direct deposit requirement, of delivery of payments. They want to disperse the funds electronically into any account that's authorized or a treasury-sponsored account. There is, let's see, so they've got the same verbiage in here for exemption or exception from a reduction or offset. This is just a fancy way, and we talked about this in the $1,400 stimulus check video. It's just a fancy way of saying they don't want this to be garnished for debts or other claims or even child support. This is the same verbiage they used for the $600 stimulus checks, and I'm 95% sure that child support was included in this verbiage. They've redone it. The verbiage in the $600 check bill was different. And this legalese is very difficult to read and understand, but what you can do is if you want to double check or make sure of that, just take a screenshot of this page right here and then look up these different sections here. Although I can tell you, you will probably get bored very quickly because it sucks. I don't know why they can't just speak in plain English. It blows my mind, but I can tell you in plain English that you can get up to $250 with BlockFi when you deposit money with them by going to mettkevin.com/BF. Okay, let's keep going here. So the amount of the credit allowed under this section to any taxpayer for any taxable year shall be reduced, but not to below zero by the aggregate amount of payments made. So in other words, when you go file your payments or your taxes, let's say you're owed $9,600. But they already paid you, I'm just going to make a number up. They already paid you $4,300. Okay, so that's not half, right? It's a little less than half, but I'm just, again, making a number up here. Well, then technically, you're still owed $5,300, and you could get that on your tax return. And here's where they talk about excessive payments, where essentially if you get overpaid, then you might have to be prepared to pay that back. So they got safe harbor provisions on the next pages here. Let's see here. This does begin after 2020, so this is where they mention that as well, so we want to be clear. Then we get into more legalese, and then we get into the earned income tax credit, which is a topic for a different video. But keep in mind, this is something that, if passed, they're planning on starting July 1st. There'll be some form of an online portal, and you'll basically get this essentially free money. It's tax credit based on the number of children you have, which if you also want some extra free money, make sure to go to Webull. If you deposit $100 with Webull, they will give you 2 free stocks worth up to $1,850, or you could go to M1 Finance and set up an account there, or you know what, do both. If you deposit $100 with M1 Finance by going to mettkevin.com/M1, they will give you $30 totally for free. So the links you want to remember, mettkevin.com/BF, mettkevin.com/Webull, and mettkevin.com/M1. Thanks so much for watching, folks. We'll see you in the next video.